You wanted her dead.
I had a change of heart.
Based on the downright scolding response Dark Phoenix received upon release, I went into this film expecting to find a massive cinematic train wreck. So imagine my confusion when the further I watched, the more evident it became that what I was watching was easily among the better superhero comic book movies I've seen. And to make it clear, this isn't some sarcastic joke. Even just in general, I saw Dark Phoenix to be very excellently constructed. It has incredibly powerful moments of emotion-heavy drama. It has incredible acting to really give those moments weight. It has magnificent music that proves that Hans Zimmer still is and always will be one of the all-time greats. It has multiple superbly crafted set-piece sequences that encapsulate masterful writing, like the opening shuttle rescue, for example. There's a constant dread of time running out here. There's a bunch of simply massive character choices under pressure here that give these characters more personality than the previous X-Men movie did in full.
We gotta get out of here. I said strap in!
No, Raven, no. We're not leaving anyone behind.
I am not putting this team in more danger.
And what about their team?
But all that aside, what really made Dark Phoenix shine for me is how it utilizes one specific storytelling element that is perhaps the most crucial part of any narrative product. A storytelling element that connects this movie to Captain America Civil War, which because of this same exact element I've come to think of as the strongest entry in the MCU. Its ability to utilize conflict. In fact, Dark Phoenix handles conflict so well and in such a powerful manner that at times, believe it or not, it seems to rise even above Civil War. And at that point, I'm starting to be like, okay, everyone else must be crazy, because there's no way this movie isn't a great conclusion to this franchise. But then I got to the third act turning point, and I finally understood. All the things that made this movie what it was, the very thing that made this movie shine, it was suddenly gone. Everything the first two acts of this movie worked so hard to build up, the last act finale takes a dump on. And obviously, in today's Anatomy of a Failure, we're gonna delve deeper into what that means and how it actually happened. But this time it's gonna be a bit different, because instead of focusing only on the negatives, we first have to understand the positives, how this movie uses conflict, how it makes that conflict so powerful, and then finally we'll move to the end and see how all that was ruined. How exactly a movie went from Civil War to just another cinematic train wreck. If there is one storytelling lesson that Civil War made me learn and appreciate as a writer, it's the sheer power you can find in domestic conflict between protagonists, a lesson that Dark Phoenix seems to have learned as well. In the first act, for example, there's a bunch of scenes where characters just talk without any pushback from an antagonistic force, which by logic should be boring. But the reason these scenes are anything but boring is because they're based entirely on Xavier's tendency to value human lives over mutant lives, which doesn't go over so well with those around him. And suddenly, these scenes of people talking are actually about something much more, which packs them with emotion and power.
No, the jet can't get that high.
Even with the new booster rockets and all your modifications.
We're built for acceleration, not elevation, okay? Not this. No.
Mr. President.
Are you seeing this on TV?
Yes, I'm watching now. Hank?
So what? We wear matching costumes and smile in pictures to
That
make
is a
everyone
small
feel
price
safe?
to pay for keeping the peace.
By risking our people to save theirs.
Yes, yes.
But the reason Dark Phoenix really shines in this matter is all thanks to the character of Jean. Basically, Jean in this movie is the equivalent of Bucky in Civil War, in that she serves as the main source of all the conflict and altercations. Whatever scene you're watching, you can be sure that Jean somehow plays a factor in it. Whatever you're seeing, you can be sure that it's less about what you see and more about what's underneath. We have a scene of Xavier and Jean having this battle of the brains, which is basically just the actors making making constipated faces and some CGI in the background. And yet, it's stuffed to the brim with emotion and power, because it's less about the actual battle and more about Jean finally finding out that Xavier lied to her about her parents being dead. It's not just about, oh look, what a cool brain fight. It's more about, uh-oh, will she find out the truth? What's gonna happen if she does? We have a scene of the mutant students just casually partying, which is actually about Jean's inner demons growing out of control and becoming a danger. We have a scene of Jean reuniting with her long-lost father, which is actually about him accusing her of killing her mom. We have a scene of the X-Men sitting around in a jet going after Jean, which is actually about Raven further realizing the depth of Xavier's manipulation.
What did you do?
I protected her.
From the truth. There's another word for that.
I mean, look at the suburban action sequence. On face value, it's nothing special, just more of the same mutant power action we've seen done before. But the reason I see this as one of the most powerful in the franchise is because it's less about the mutant action and more about the inherent conflict underneath. The X-Men have to stop Jean before she's too far gone, but they hold highly differing opinions on how to do so. Jean, on the other hand, is struggling with her inner demons and is suddenly forced to defend herself against the people she used to think of as her family. And while all of this is very similar to Civil War, I think at this point Dark Phoenix for a moment might even rise a bit above it, because it mixes in a twist that Civil War never did: the death of a hero.
You're my family, Jean. No matter what.
Walk it off.
After Jean accidentally kills Raven, that's when we're past the point of no return. That's when the divisive conflict inflates to whole new levels. We have a divide between the X-Men because they have very conflicting views about Jean being evil. We have a divide between Hank and Xavier because Hank blames Xavier for sending Jean on this path that got Raven killed. We have Hank and Magneto both wanting to kill Jean for revenge, which Xavier and the others can't allow because they still believe Jean is good. And they also can't let the mutant-human relations be destroyed. It gets to the point where the underlying conflict is so strong that it plays a major part even when all the characters aren't aware of it.
Whose blood is that?
What?
On your shirt. Whose blood is it? Whose blood is that? Yes, you do. Whose blood is that?
I don't want to talk about it.
Did you hurt someone?
Please,
Answer the question, Jean.
When Jean first goes to meet Magneto, there's no external hostility whatsoever. And yet, this tiny dialogue scene packs more impact than most big hero-villain action sequences. And that's because even though Magneto doesn't know Jean just killed Raven, we do. And we also know that Magneto really cares about Raven. And so every time Magneto asks whose blood it is on Jean's shirt, it feels like a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off. And that right there is how you base your entire movie on conflict. Like I mentioned earlier, it was Civil War that made me realize that no matter how strong of a hero-villain conflict you create, it will never be as strong as domestic conflict between just your heroes. And it's Dark Phoenix that finally made me fully understand why that is. When you look at this movie, you can quickly notice that unlike some previous installments like Apocalypse, it doesn't base its conflict on simple good versus evil, but instead on more of a gray area where everyone is fully justified in their actions, in a way that they can be supported by the audience. The reason the events of Dark Phoenix are set in motion is because Xavier is getting so up and close with humans that he's willing to put mutant lives at risk in order to please them. And just like Raven brings up, from the mutant point of view, that kinda does make him selfish and a bit of a bad guy.
Because we're taking bigger and bigger risks. And for what? Please, tell me it's not your ego. Being on the cover of magazines, getting a medal from the president. You like it, don't you?
But at the same time, the reason Xavier is doing all this is to ensure that no more mutants will be hunted and harmed by humans. In other words, he's doing bad things for good reasons, a mindset that leads us to the suburban clash between him and Jean.
You told me my father was dead, and you used me for my powers.
No, that's just not true. That's not what happened. Jean, we can help you. I can help you, but you have to listen to me.
No, No, I don't.
Neither party here wants to fight or hurt the other, but the way this sequence is set up, that is the inevitable outcome. Jean understandably refuses to trust Xavier because she just found out that he's been lying to her whole life. But from Xavier's perspective, those lies were just meant to spare her from the pain of harsh truth. And the reason he can't let Jean go is because he can't let her accidentally hurt more people and this way jeopardize the peace between mutants and humans. Basically, this entire sequence is crafted in a way that puts the audience between a rock and a hard place. Instead of being able to just simply root for the good guy to beat up the bad guy, it's like a dilemma that doesn't have an answer, and that's why it's effective. Another good example is Magneto. The more movies I've seen him in, the more boring he's become as a character, because it's always the same story. He's a good person, but then something bad happens to him that turns him into a bad person villain. Rinse and repeat.
Whatever it is you think you saw in me, Charles, I buried it with my family.
But in this movie, I think they successfully returned him back to his former glory of X-Men First Class. Because here, he isn't a good person or a bad person. He's just a person.
No what, Hank?
He's dead. Jean killed her.
After Jean has killed Raven, Magneto along with Hank sets out not to take over the world or whatever, but just to kill Jean, which leads us to the hotel battle between his team and Xavier's. Obviously, Magneto is fully justified in wanting Jean dead, because not only is it justice for Raven, it also seems to be the only way to make sure that Jean doesn't kill again. But at the same time, Xavier and his teammates are as much in the right as well, because they care about Jean and still believe she can be helped. Again, the fight isn't about just the good side versus the evil side. It's about two separate sides with their own fully valid objectives that are in direct conflict. In other words, it's as if we're watching an unstoppable force clash against an immovable object. And that is exactly where great drama comes from. I've said before that all movies should feature a clear villain, and I still stand by that, because the only way we can ever root for characters and get into a movie is if we have someone to root against. But the reason that's not a problem here either is because we have Jessica Chastain functioning as a true constant background evil, the same way that Zemo did in Civil War. And this, coupled with all the earlier stuff we talked about, is why, just like Civil War, Dark Phoenix is a great movie. Well, almost. Long story short, once we start nearing the third act twist after the hotel battle, all of a sudden everything we've been talking about is tossed out the window. In other words, all of a sudden this whole movie goes to shit. Starting with the domestic conflict, we actually have this very cool sadistic moment where Jean makes Xavier walk like a puppet and then is about to kill him. Because again, at this point she is so consumed by her inner demons and the hatred she has for him. But then, in one magic word, take a guess what happens.
Martha!
Well, that's not exactly how it goes, but basically it's the same thing. The reason Jean manages to shake all her demons and conflict with Xavier is because she looks into his mind and sees that the reason he took her in as a kid was because her father didn't want her and that he once said that he wants to help her. No big meaningful character actions, no satisfying resolution, just a few Martha-like magic words.
As long as there's someone to care for her who believes, then there's still hope. Still hope.
And the reason this is even more stupid than the actual Martha moment is because here it's information that the characters already have. Jean has already seen Xavier tell her that he wants to help her. She has already seen that her father blames her for her mom's death, which made him give her away as a child. And so this change of heart not only comes out of nowhere, it not only feels like a disappointing cop-out, it's also one big f you to the audience. Same with all the other character conflicts regarding Jean. Remember how we just talked about the X-Men being so strongly divided over Jean that it's as if we're watching an unstoppable force clashing with an immovable object? Well, just guess how that is resolved.
She'll be coming back for more. She'll be coming back for Jean.
Good. Let her.
Martha!
Again, not exactly true, but close.
The killing will not end there.
That's not what Raven would have wanted. You know that. You both do.
You wanted her dead.
I had a change of heart.
That's right, after all this time of Magneto and Hank being increasingly consumed by their anger, all it takes to snap them out of it is to tell them that this anger is not a good thing. Which is basically like if when Tony Stark saw the footage of Bucky killing his parents, Captain America told him that he shouldn't be angry at Bucky because he wasn't in control and that this is just what Zemo wants. And then instead of giving into his rage and attacking, Tony was just like, yeah, that makes sense, let's be friends, because that's solely how human emotions work. As for the whole hero versus villain aspect, it's the same situation. Whereas before, this movie was less about simplistic good versus evil and more about people with grey conflicting objectives, at the end the former is exactly what it becomes. We have all our X-Men setting their differences aside and joining together to battle these nameless aliens who not only want to kill Jean for her powers, but also to take over the world, because of course they do.
Your lives mean nothing. Your world will be ours.
You'd kill us all.
Which is basically if instead of fighting each other, the ending of Civil War would have been about Tony and Cap and Bucky fighting Zemo and his army of super evil Winter Soldiers. So yeah, I understand that you have to bring the X-Men together eventually because this is the last movie, but you can't just suddenly do that at the expense of everything you've been building up. You have to find a more subtle way to do so, a way that still honors and resolves what you started. And that apparently is exactly what this movie initially was, until writer-director Simon Kinberg was forced to change it into this new thing. And I actually feel bad for him, because it's clear that he tried. It's clear that he's a talented filmmaker, because once again, I believe that the first 70% of Dark Phoenix is great. It's just that the last 30 kinda ruins all of it. In conclusion, I guess what I'm trying to say is #release the Kinberg cut.